All right, we are live, and I'm really excited today for this webinar. We're talking about growing your church and bringing unity in just 40 days, and we're gonna be diving into how a 40-day challenge can really help spur church growth and church unity. I got three great pastors on here that I'll introduce in just a moment, and so grateful for anyone joining us. If you are here right now live, I'd love for you to let us know where you're coming from and what your church is. You can do that in the chat. Also, I've got a poll question that I just posted. And so if you go over on the right-hand side, I believe there's a poll. We're talking a lot about church growth today. So I'd love to know from anyone who's here, what is your in-person attendance today comparative to pre-pandemic levels? I want to see what that is. I know it's kind of all over the map, and so would love for you as you come on in to go ahead and answer that question and to let us know where you're watching from. I know it's working because I see at least one person in the chat. What's up, John Brown from Greece, New York, and Hope Church? Thanks for joining us here today. All right, so I'm going to introduce these guys more fully, but we got Pastor Alim, we got Pastor Seth, and Pastor, you got a whole bunch of pastors here. I realized this morning, oh man, I kicked this webinar off like right when March Madness is going. Anyway, I don't know if you guys are basketball fans, but you guys got a team that you're going for in the March Madness this year?
Man, I was pulling this year for GCU to be able to get another Cinderella story. I got a kid over at Grand Canyon, and it was awesome for them to make the big dance last year, and just fell short on the whack this year, but always love a little basketball this time of year.
Yeah, GCU. They're a good up and rising team.
Yep.
How about you, Seth? You got a team?
Are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the running? I don't know.
No, but you've had enough good news for the week.
Yeah,
Brady back.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, that's the worst unretirement I've ever seen. Come on.
I'll take it.
Yeah, you might as well. I'm a Browns fan, and they're making a mess of things this week. So anyway, what's new? How about you, Pastor Alim? You got a team you rock?
Man, I tell you, I've always been impressed with Gonzaga. I love Gonzaga and their story. So, yeah, Gonzaga.
And yeah, they are the team that I picked. So I'm rooting for them. They got like this 7'1" guy that's looks like he's like 180 pounds, but I think he's like going to be the number 1 or number 2 pick in the draft. So, yeah, that's awesome. Well, cool. We're going to give one more minute to let some others come in. I want to say hey to Andrea, my operation director from Red Letter Challenge. She's here as a participant today, so she'll probably be in the chat. And if I fail as a moderator or host, she's going to put links and other things in the chat. That's going to be awesome. I see Aaron Hickey from Peoria, Illinois, Don from Washington, Tim from Decatur, Indiana, Tawana from Georgia. So we got a lot. Andrea says, go Bucks. She's a Floridian, Seth. So there you go. You got that. I think I didn't have the poll question published when I last asked it, but there is a poll question. If you haven't answered, it's on the right. I'd love to know what your in-person attendance is today comparative to pre-pandemic, just to know what we're working with here. And so I want to go ahead and start this. We're going to have this available for replay as well. And so what I want to do first and foremost, we're going to talk a lot about how to grow and unify a church through a 40-day challenge. And these three pastors are either in the challenge now or just finished. And I think got some really cool things that happened at their church. And so I want to give them an opportunity to share that. Before I do, I've got two things that I want to share with you guys as offers for being a part of this today. First off, I'm going to go ahead and put this. There should be an offer place as well on the right-hand side. A year ago, I wrote a little ebook. It's about 40 pages long, but it's free for you, called Growing Your Church Challenge. It's going to give 10 ideas to grow your church that cost little to no money. And I know pastors love church growth and stuff that doesn't cost a lot. And so if you haven't gotten that, that's going to be there. It's in the offer section. You can get your free book, ebook. It's real practical, simple things that you'll learn in that I think are really going to be great. So at the end of the day, like my heart here at Red Letter Living, career-wise, I really feel no more fulfillment than when I can help another pastor. For whatever reason, that's how God's wired me. And so I think today is going to really help you. So today I got 3 awesome pastors with me. So I want to introduce them to you and ask them each a question to get started. So first we got Nate Shouse from Buckeye, Arizona. Nate, go ahead and wave. We got Alim Bakari from Arlington, Texas. And we got Seth Goldsmith from Sebastian, Florida. And so as I looked at this guest list, I think I brought a person from each of the 3 fastest growing states. Everybody's moving down to Florida, Texas, and Arizona. So thank you guys for being here. So first I want to introduce to you Pastor Nate Shouse, the lead pastor of Summit Church in Buckeye, Arizona. Nate's become a real good friend over the years, and I just love how God is working through you, Nate, and through your church. Some things about Nate. He's married to Liz. He has 3 kids, and he loves golf. I'll tell you this about Nate. I actually have a nickname for Nate. What is it, Nate?
Yep. Sunjay.
Sungjae. And you're like, how's he get a nickname like Sungjae? There's one golfer on the PGA Tour named Sungjae Im. He's probably like 25th world ranked. But Sungjae and Nate Shouse, they both have the smoothest, slowest backswing I've ever seen. So anyway, that's your nickname, Sungjae. So Nate, tell me how in the world you got to Buckeye, Arizona, how long you've served at Summit Church, and maybe a 1 or 2 minute snapshot of your church community.
Yeah. So Buckeye's west side of Phoenix, a growing area here right now. I actually came out here in 2007, kind of a season there, helping to kind of relaunch the church there that had been started a couple of years earlier. And it's been just an incredible journey, very, very community oriented. And actually, I would say amplified by the fact we ended up being in renting a high school campus, and we were portable for 12 years. And so that was, just everything we did was in the community. I always talked, in those early years there about saying, man, the heart of our church and how we engage and how we reach, we don't want to wait for people to come to us. Man, we got to get out to them, and we got to think beyond our walls. And they're like, Pastor Nate, we don't have walls right now. We don't have a building. I don't care. We're setting the tone right now. And so it's been really cool to see the way that God has worked through that. We actually were able to acquire some property right off of the freeway in a really strategic location here on the west side of Phoenix. We built and opened a campus there for Summit at the beginning of 2020. About 2.5 months later, the whole world shut down. So, you know what? God has a sense of humor, but so grateful for the sake of our city, for the sake of the West Valley, for the sake of our church that God allowed us to be able to lean in and be able to be a force for the kingdom in the coming through COVID kind of season. And we actually had 5 church plants that met in schools and other places that actually used our church in 2020 to help keep their ministries going.
I love that, man. So I love a couple things about that. Anyone that does portable church for more than a year, I've got mad respect for. To do it for 12, wow, that's crazy. And I love, by the way, your generosity and giving your space to other ministries. It's a beautiful space, and the timing, maybe look back and like, COVID, but God's is using it and going to use it, will use it. And I love how you're positioned. So appreciate that from Nate. We're going to hear more from you in a moment, but now I want to introduce you to Alim Bakari from Connect Church in Arlington, Texas. Alim is married to his wife, Tanya. He's got 2 sons, also loves golf. Alim, there was this one time, it has it on your bio, so I hope I'm okay asking. It says that you showed up by accident to work in your wife's pants.
I read that.
So you got to tell me how that happened. And then I also want to hear, by the way, about
I have to take that off, and I keep forgetting to take that off. And every time somebody brings it up, I'm like, where did you get this from? Oh, man, that is funny. Oh, that was such a long time ago that, man, I don't know how it happened. I'm getting dressed and I go to work. And so I go to the, this it just gets horrible. Anyway.
Before the days when skinny pants were in for guys again, right?
Right. So I discovered it and I called her and I was like, sweetheart, you're not going to believe what happened. She's like, what? I'm wearing your pants. So anyway,
I love it. That's awesome.
Take this part out. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah. So hi, I am Pastor Alim Bakari from the great city of Arlington, Texas, home of the 5-time Super Bowl champion Dallas Cowboys. I know it's been 100 years, but that's still my claim to fame. So, but I am the pastor of Connect Church. Been in the Arlington area since 1995. I came to Arlington to find my beautiful wife, which I found her in Arlington, and I've been here ever since. So we are a diverse church. Just to give you a brief background, I planted a church in September of 2014, and we merged with Connect Church in 2018, and so I became the executive pastor, and then October of 2021, our senior pastor resigned abruptly, and so prior to that, I had told God, and listen to this, I know that you guys will definitely understand this. I told God, okay, God, I'm through. I'm just going to be the executive here. I have a business background. I'll sign checks. I'll implement systems. But as far as being a lead pastor or senior pastor again, I'm good. I don't have to ever again. And so I now find myself as the senior pastor of Connect Church. So
yep, there you go. We'll get it. Yeah. We'll get into a little more of that story in just a moment, but yeah, so happy that you're joining us here. And all right, we got. I want to say hey to Lori and Diana. I see you guys in the chat. If you are just jumping in and didn't get here right on time, there's a poll question I'd love for you to answer. It's going to be on the right-hand side of your screen. Also, a free offer for Growing Your Church Challenge: 10 ideas to grow your church for little to no money. And then I'll tell you about one more offer at the very end. But our third pastor with us today, I should say our fourth, because I get to be one too. But the third other pastor guest is Seth Goldsmith from Sebastian, Florida. He is the lead pastor at Coastal Community Church, married his middle school sweetheart, Krista, and together have 5 kids. And so Seth wins the kid battle here today. Seth, I got 2 boys myself. You have 5. So I want to know, what is it like in your household on a daily basis? How do you get it all done? And then give us a snapshot of what life is like at Coastal Community for you.
So what's it like in my household? It's noisy, Zach. And my wife is the real hero. She homeschooled all 5 of our kids, sometimes with foster kids, sometimes with a 6th kid on her hip or a baby in a sling. She's amazing. So that's how we survive, my wife. But it's a lot of fun. 4 teenagers now. So it's crazy. But I'm grateful for my family. It's a lot of fun. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. So Coastal Community Church, I have some similarities with Pastor Nate. We met in a middle school for 15 years. And yeah, I just wondered if God had forgotten about me. So, and in the midst of 2020, we entered into a church merge, so a little bit of common with Alim, and we merged with a church that was struggling, acquired their property, and so we are on a new to us campus with lots of new to us challenges.
Yeah,
exciting growth opportunities. We started 16 years ago in my living room. I'm a church planter, and this isn't exactly the timeline that I had in mind. But God has been with us and has been developing us along the way. It's been exciting. Bivocational. I was bivocational for 10 years of that, and until it just wasn't feasible anymore. And so God's been growing us. 2020 was interesting for all of us, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But as it stretched us, We've gotten to, I think we grew deeper as a team, and it prepared us for this merge. Honestly, I was going to answer the poll, but up until recently, our attendance hadn't rebounded. It was a real struggle. And I don't want to spoiler alert, but Red Letter Challenge was a big part of that rebound and actually pushing us ahead of where we were pre-2020.
Cool.
So that's where we're at.
I love it. I love it. I got 3 great guys on here with me. So, hey, if you're listening now and you've got any questions, anytime, feel free to throw those in the chat. We will for sure get to them at the end. And if it makes sense to jump in the middle sometime, we'll do that with 1 or 2 of those questions. So I want to actually start with Alim. One of the words that we hear constantly, and I would say even more so in these past 2 years in COVID times about our 40-day challenges, is the word unity. And so I want to ask Alim about that. But before I do that, I want to read the email we got from your communication person, Sherry. And so I want to read Sherry's email from Connect Church and then ask you about this, Alim. Sherry said this about Red Letter Challenge. She said, it was truly a life-changing experience for us. Our church family, like others, was devastated by COVID, mask mandates, and racial tensions over the last couple of years. We had over half of our families leave, and all these departures were hard on us. We lost a whole life group over a mask requirement. We were trying to scrape back to unity when back in October, our longtime senior pastor suddenly resigned. We were struggling on how to go on or if we should even go on. But we recommitted to our mission and started the 2022 year with a week of fasting and prayer, followed by the 40-day Red Letter Challenge. And she says, I think this saved our church. It gave us something to rally around. We were literally on the same pages throughout these 40 days. And it was more than just a 45-minute sermon on Sunday. We really challenged each other and held one another accountable to the journey. When I saw that email, I teared up when I was reading it because yes, this is fulfilling. This is what it's all about. And so I was just so pumped. And that's why I wanted to bring you on. When I saw that email, I don't get a chance to listen to every pastor that preaches Red Letter Challenge. But I did go back and listen to your first message, Pastor Alim, and I could just hear your heart, man, pouring out on your church, on what you were, the hard season you went through and what you were hopeful of. And so I'd love to hear more from you maybe about that, like the story happening in the church leading up to this moment and how I would say through not just Red Letter Challenge, but the fasting and prayer. How did those elements, like Sherry said, save your church? Tell us a little bit about that story and the unity that it brought, if you could.
Sure. So I would first of all start out by saying that my wife reminded me not too long ago that when we planted our church, we planted a church called Victory Church. We were in constant prayer, and one of our prayers to God was, God, send us the hard cases. And she had to remind me of that because I'm like, Lord, why? And she said, don't you remember we prayed and asked God to send us the hard cases? And so we merged with Connect Church back in October of 2018. As I said, I was the executive pastor. I was happy there. And then our senior pastor suddenly resigned, and I found myself in a position to where I had to step up. Now, while all of this is going on, my wife gets a promotion to open up a site for her company in Tampa, Florida. And so we were preparing to move to Tampa, Florida. I told all of the elders and all that. And so, and come to so the way it all worked out, because Florida, their COVID situation was, it was not a good scene. Her company decided to not have everybody go back or come to this brand new site that they were opening. So she's still working from home today. I end up being appointed the senior pastor. And so one of the first things that I had the staff do was, hey, let's find out how we can get this church back on track. I'm a leadership administration. What's the model? I'm a disc model. I'm a D, and so I'm just a take charge kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I have a tremendous staff, and man, we just put our heads down and just started trying to figure out what could we do. And so Sherry and Carl were the ones that found out about the book, and so we bought books, we bought T-shirts, and so during this whole time, man, we're going through this church that we lease to. They want to buy the building that we in. They pull out of the deal. I mean, it's just like, man, one thing after another. But we embarked on this Red Letter Challenge, January 6th, I believe. And man, those were some of the highest attended services that we've had post-COVID. Our church now, man, everybody's on the same page. Everybody's excited. Everybody's plugged in. And so it's just been a tremendous thing to see. And so, and I told our church, I said, I never thought in my wildest dreams, a guy from I'm from a section of town called Oak Cliff, that I would be pastoring a church of predominantly white people. And so they just bust out laughing. But I mean, but it's just being obedient to where God has you, and just trying to and just operating in faith. And so I'm very excited about where God is going, and thank you for putting together such a great challenge. So we're now working on trying to decide if we want to do a fall challenge or just do one the start of the year. So
that's awesome. Alim, man, that story is amazing. It sounds like there was so many big things at play. And so I'm happy that our team and what we did played a role in it. I also love, and I think it's a best practice that I want to talk about more to churches in the future. I love the intentionality of praying and fasting prior to it. I think that really creates a really great atmosphere for God to do a great work. And so that's awesome. I think unity, like I said, is a word we share a lot. And someone asked me, like, what's so unifying? And to me, I think it's whenever things get complicated in the world, and they are, right? I saw that a lot in your email or Sherry's email that talked about COVID and mask mandate and racial tension. And, one whole group left over a mask requirement. And I think all of us as pastors and church leaders, we get it. Like it was hard, and it still is hard. But when anything complicated is happening, it's always nice to come back to something simple, something unifying. And that's what Jesus is, and that's what his words are. And so I love that. All the dogs in the house agree too. Amen. Amen. I love that. Cool.
If I could say, if I could add this, the one thing when you read the Bible, one of the things that a constant theme I saw is when God's people's back was up against the wall, one of the first things that they did was they fasted and they prayed. And so that's why. So
amen. So maybe, Seth, I don't know if you're 15 years in middle school, maybe fasting and praying, right?
We didn't try that soon enough.
For anyone out there, it's like, God, you forgot about me. Well, that is cool. One of the things I heard last week at Exponential Conference, that John Tyson, pastor, author, he went and visited, 10 or 15 of the places where revival happened in our world. He wanted to find out what's the common denominator. And of course, prayer was important and things were like that were really important. But he said at the end of it, like what he really saw, the one thing he could really put his finger pinpoint on each location is there was this spirit that even verbally out loud, a lot of people were saying, we want God to be here. We just want God to be here. Like God, is with us, like his presence but he loves being with us. And so that's what I think, that fasting and prayer, it's that invitation of God, we genuinely want you to be here. So that's awesome. I put your quote in the chat, Alim. God, send us the hard cases. So cool, man. I love it. All right, Seth, you guys, you're in Florida. You guys haven't finished. You're on day 31. So you're pretty close, about 75% of the way done. You emailed us, and one of the things that you said is this resource actually grew your worship attendance like crazy. We usually, in our promotion, we'll talk, like I said, about unity, and we'll talk about small group growth, which I'm going to talk to Nate about in a little bit. We don't talk a ton about worship attendance, though we see this from time to time at churches. And so I want you to tell us more. If you can, I'd love for you to give us like the data, the actual numbers, because I think that's helpful. But even more important, I want to know like why you think you saw that growth. So if you have any numbers or data, great. But why do you think you saw that growth in worship attendance?
Yeah. So we saw a 54% increase in worship attendance. I'm talking 1 week from January to December, January to starting Red Letter Challenge. It was a 54% increase, and we've held through the.
And you've held it, you said.
Held and even wow. Increased beyond. I haven't run the numbers again. I'm too busy keeping up with the challenge, Zach. But we increased 54% in our worship attendance. We increased 70% in our small groups.
Awesome.
And we're not a huge church, so that's big for us. We actually are at the point we were in a position pre-COVID where we wanted to add an additional worship service. During the merge, we acquired a traditional worship service that didn't make it, but we're in that position again thanks to Red Letter Challenge. We don't have room for everybody, so we'll be launching a new service starting Easter.
Awesome.
And so small groups have been awesome as well. I think some of the reasons why we've seen this is our initial promotion strategy.
Yeah.
Involving all of the leaders, engaging all of our leaders, making sure that they buy into this vision, making sure that they're the ones who are also, we call, we text, we email, we put it on social media, everything several weeks ahead of time, and just start pounding the pavement. And people we haven't seen since 2019, call them too, and putting it out on social media, people start sharing it, and we encourage them to share it with with a hashtag. So they start sharing it. Their friends are asking me, sending me a message. Hey, can I get a book? I'm like, I'm out. Zach, you did not tell me to order enough, but I ordered as many books.
I told you most people, anyway, go ahead.
Zach says most people don't order enough books. And I said, well, how many do you think I should? And I ordered that many. But we did not realize what God was going to do. In Zach's defense, I don't know whether that prayer and fasting of Alim caused it to happen or what, but we grew. And but just the stories, getting to hear like people who had not ever attended small group ever in their life. People received Christ. People were ready to get baptized. We had baby dedications, all sorts of just great stuff. People who did not normally get into their Bible and have what we call a chair time or a daily devotional on a regular basis, jumping into that. And that's contagious. But I really feel like the energy created by a lot of it just being created for us. Like, I don't know about the other pastors, but my graphic design artists are volunteers. So for us, like, and I'm a graphic design artist too. That was my vocation, but being able to get all these great graphics and everything kind of produced for us and roll it out all at once, it really allowed a lot more energy to go into the presentation of the sermon, making sure that our life groups were followed up with. So, kind of retooling our life group leaders and saying, hey, we go back to our book that we go through, Essentials for Small Group Leaders. Make sure we're calling everybody. Like if you don't see somebody, make sure that that they know that they're missed. And I really feel like that just bolstered everything, because everything is kind of maintained. That growth that we saw in the initial week, we've been able to carry that through. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen next.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So what I heard in you, and I'd love to ask one more clarifying question, because we always talk about best practices, and we always talk about our resources are turnkey, so you can use them. And we've seen that. We had a church one time call us on a Monday, and they launched on a Sunday, and it's like it worked, but like there are best practices to make it better. And to me, the larger the church, probably the greater the lead-in time, promotion distribution time needs to be. We usually recommend about a 4 to 5 week promotion distribution time. And if able, to buy in with leaders even prior to that. And so I think you guys hit the 4 to 5 week mark just fine.
Really?
I'm curious, your distribution strategy, were you giving away books, or were you asking for suggested donation, or where did you guys land on that side of it?
So by the way, we ran out again. We reordered. We ran out again. It got so much that I started giving away the Amazon link and saying, look, I mean, we can't keep doing this, man. So
I was wondering why we had an Amazon spike in sales. That's interesting.
Yes, so people bought the book on Amazon because I'm like, man, by the time I get another third order here. Sorry, repeat the question, Zach.
Yeah, no. What was your distribution strategy? Were you giving them away, or were you suggested donation, or where did you guys land on that? I'm just curious.
So we printed the 24 by 36 posters that the graphics are provided for in the graphics package, and we put a table in the back, and we said, hey, this is our Red Letter Challenge table. We staffed it. By the way, we had online life group signups, but we also had signups physically there so that we can put people down. And we had the books at that table, books and bracelets. And the books and bracelets were the suggested donation was $5. And we let people know it costs more, but this is our gift, and we really want to invest in their spiritual development. So if they could give more and buy a book for somebody else, then that's great. If they can't give any, then the book is our gift.
Awesome. I think that's really great. And we get that a lot of times where typically if you show generosity, like my goal as a pastor, I want to get as many people in as I can. And so if I need to share the cost or give the books away so that we can get more people engaged for not just 40, but our hope is long-term as well. That's a small cost for me in my mind as a pastor to pay. But that shared cost and letting people know, like, hey, the church paid this amount for them. So if you want to give and help the church offset the cost, great. If not, like, it's our gift to you, or it's $5, whatever it is, we just want you in. I think a lot of that language, what happens is a lot of churches end up making a lot of their investment back.
Zach, I'm a frugal pastor. Some staff members might call me cheap, but this was worth, even if we didn't get anything back, this was worth the investment.
That's cool. Some churches will also, they'll try to get to that $5 price point, which is something we recommend. They might find one donor to help offset the entire cost, or some have discipleship dollars in their budget and can use it that way to kind of help offset. But I think the more you believe in it and the more generous you are to others, that's definitely a best practice. And so, man, I love hearing that 54% worship attendance growth that stayed strong for 5 weeks now. Like, that's crazy. Yes. That's wild. And so praise God for that. That's awesome. All right, Nate, this was you guys' second 40-day challenge down in Buckeye, Arizona. So you did Red Letter Challenge. I think it was pre-COVID.
Early 2019, I think.
Yeah, you were one of the first adopters. And so you guys did our next one, Being Challenge. And I was pretty excited to hear and see all that God was doing there. I also got to preach at Buckeye, kick off your 40-day challenge. And I'll just throw this out there. I'm always open for invitations to states like Arizona, Florida, and Texas in the winter months here in Omaha. I'm just going to throw that out there. But hey, we got an email from your group's leader, Nikki, and she was saying this was the first time your church had ever broken 500 in small groups, and that was a big number barrier that you guys hadn't broken yet. So I want to know first, why is it important to jump into small groups at Summit, and then how did this help get you to that number?
Yeah, excellent. No, we definitely believe in small groups. I think what happens in homes or what happens in community with other people really helps to set life change in motion. I mean, I just love the dynamic, interactive nature of what happens in those kind of group settings. That's different from a Sunday morning, and so for us to be able to get past that 500 barrier in the red letter or with the being challenge, doing that 40-day series here this time was just it was so great for momentum and engaging new leaders and leaning into that time. I think for us, especially here on the west side of Phoenix. You mentioned before, this is a growing area. There's a lot of people that are certainly moving to our area, and you don't have family in the area. You don't have a lifelong set of connections. So I think there's a spiritual opportunity to be able to connect people together, and a hunger that might not be in another part of the country that maybe does have long-term established roots. So high opportunity for us just in terms of an approach for us ministry-wise. And I would say the other thing, here too, is it was an opportunity after the last couple of years of COVID. And I think this is true no matter what part of the country you were in. Doesn't matter if it's a new and growing area or not. I think that there is a genuine desire for some connection and relationship that a lot of people lost over the last couple of years. And so for us, it was something we were praying for and was grateful to be able to see, because to be able to, especially against the backdrop of COVID, to be able to connect that many people into groups and activate people that way. And for us, that is that's not like a Sunday morning or Saturday night worship, those kind of gatherings. It's not, kids groups and things happening there. This really is, it's midweek, it's adults and teenagers are primarily that, people connected in those kind of ministry venues. So for us, I would say that probably things that jump-started that for us, I'd say probably three things. I mean, one, Zach, it was awesome to have you here on site, be able to lean into that on the front end. When you were there with us that weekend, it not only provided some catalytic energy around it, but I would say what we did in the afternoon with probably about 80 of our leaders was really vital to build momentum, energy, and to be able to get other people across different ministries really engaged with this. So for us here at Summit, which is the second thing, for us here at Summit, it is not just about okay, this is not just a small group strategy for us. I think the value and the opportunity for a 40-day journey and to have that kind of language that you use with your church, we integrated this with our student ministry. We integrated it with our kids ministry. And we cleared the calendar. I mean, very strategically, we call it internally. We don't use that language with the whole church, but with our staff, we call it an alignment series. We want all of our ministries. We want the whole church to be on the same page, moving the same direction. And what it does is it opens up the opportunity then to be able to say to people, hey, if you're new with our church since COVID and you haven't really jumped, man, this is a great time to jump in. Hey, it's a great time to jump in because we're going to be talking about this with your kids. We'd love for you to try a small group and do this. Hey, you can have some conversations as a family. And it's just like it leverages the energy and the momentum across every aspect of the church's ministry. And so I'd say that was a critical piece for us. And then for me, just casting vision, it was fun on the front end of this to be able to say, for me, whenever we do a series like this, I always want to have a clear why. Why this series? Why now? And for me, with the Being Challenge, I loved the focus on spiritual disciplines, on being with Jesus, learning from the habits of Jesus and in his life, and to be able to roll that out and to be able to just ask, even in the weeks leading up to this, hey, how many of you in the last couple of years have experienced some disruption? And it's easy to relate to the disruption that kids have gone through and people have gone through. Yeah. It's like, man, how many of you, for you or for even people like your spiritual habits and patterns and things in your life have gotten disrupted too? It's like, man, everybody's just like, yeah, It's so for us doing this as an early in the year kind of new beginning, lean into new habits. The being challenge was sweet for that in this pocket of the year. And I think a lot of churches I know are doing it right now. We're praying for you. If you're leaning into like Lent and this 40 days before Easter, man, just for me, I saw the value in drilling into spiritual disciplines and habits because people lost it in so many ways the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's good. So what I'm hearing from you is what helped was a resource that met a need.
Yeah.
And the need was sort of habit formation.
Yep.
And so that's what being challenged is all about. So let's provide resources that meet needs. 40 days is nice because it's not forever.
Yep.
There's a start and an end. So clearly we want long-term growth in numbers, but also in depth for each person. So 40 days is good. And then I heard from you a real intentional, if you want this to grow small groups, which we've seen that over and over and over again. The numbers we always say is 40% growth in small groups over 40 days. I think that's conservative if a church really plans well.
Yep.
And so one of the things in planning well, though, is providing that small group leader training that I think is a must to create buy-in and excitement, getting churches ready for that. So that's really awesome. So these are kind of the big, like, church wins, right? We got unity from Pastor Alim's church. I think I heard growth as well in there from Pastor Seth. We got worship attendance and we got small group growth, and plus his graphics team loved it. And from Nate, we got especially small group growth and greater buy-in. Do any of you have, I'm kind of, any one of you, if you got a story or two, like those are great church wins. One of the other things I love hearing at Red Letter Living is like when an individual's life was changed. So do any of you have any particular individual stories, whether it be your own or somebody else's in your church that you'd want to share?
I'll share one. First of all, it sure is nice knowing what I'm going to wear Sunday morning. You know, when I put on that Red Letter Challenge t-shirt, it just makes it easy. You know, I just I don't have to look through my wardrobe. I put on the Red Letter Challenge. Yeah. Anyway, testimony is what you're looking for here. And there's somebody who's kind of dragged to church, and he's a musician and very skilled vocally and on keys. And he decided when he started coming, he was going to just do this Red Letter Challenge with his mom because his mom wanted him to. And he's younger. So he started going through this Red Letter Challenge, asking his mom questions, getting connected. And what's neat is just watching his faith journey develop along with this challenge.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing about it. I actually haven't talked to him directly. I'm hearing about this kind of reverberate throughout the different areas of the ministry that he's connected to. And he's actually now serving in our worship band, playing keys, and looking forward to joining in vocals soon. But it's just neat to see people like off the street, not really sure what to do with God.
Yeah.
And they've decided to sign up for this thing. So it's as much about discipleship as it is evangelism.
Yep. I love that. And that's our hope. Like, I can talk about church wins all day. So small group growth, unity, all that's awesome. But like, hopefully if the content is doing, like, it should be growing greater disciples. And so that's what I love. I love hearing that. So yeah. Anyone else got an individual win or testimony that's come?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can share one here, just thinking about the nature of, I think the nature of the individual, the daily challenges that you've built into these studies, I think is so helpful. And what I've seen is it impacts people across the faith spectrum in a lot of different ways. It helps to bring this timeless message. And like in this case here, these habits in the life of Jesus, but it brings people into that, whether you're new to faith or whether you are on this journey for a while. So I think about like one of our the family kind of connecting with us and people that are newer to church, and people would say, man, I didn't grow up around the church, or this is kind of a whole new thing for me. and just saying, man, I appreciate so much the kind of the practical nature of this, that, man, this is helping me grow. And I love hearing that from somebody that's like a new family, or somebody that's saying, we're having conversations as a husband and wife about faith that we've never had before. Mm-hmm. And so you hear the how this has been a catalyst for some of those people. But I was really pleased that in the journey here along the way, we actually saw with the Being Challenged people that were very new to the faith, as well as people that have been around the block and in a lot of groups, those kinds of things, that both resonated with this. And I think it's helpful because of some of the disruption people have felt, and the and how this is, they've grown through that. But I remember somebody that's an older, newer couple that was kind of jumping in. And I remember the guy coming up to me at our Get Connected group on Wednesday night, and he just said, in a couple of weeks in, man, I'm so grateful for, this series. I just want you to know how meaningful this has been for us, and how much we're really appreciating this series, and certainly getting to know other people here at Summit. And his wife said, yeah, and this isn't our first go around when it comes to, we've done a lot of Bible studies in a lot of groups. And for me, that's just a win when you get somebody there that has been in those kind of environments, but you also get the young person or family or somebody that's never done this before. And they're both leaning in, and God is using this to spur up things in their household and in their life. Just love it.
That's awesome. That's part of our core values in writing. Is, we want to make it simple to understand, but challenging in practice. And I think the simple to understand really works well because anybody can jump in, but the challenging in practice works really well for those who have been apart for a long time, of like, okay, well, I may know this, but am I doing this? Yeah. And so it kind of brings both of those together. Nate, we got an email from someone from your church too that talked about going through the Being Challenge and how great it's been to spend these days connecting with God right before she was jumping into a pretty major surgery. And so just kind of her spirit, if you will, because of the journey, was in a much better starting place than it could have been. So I thought that was pretty cool too.
Cool.
So, Alim, any from you?
Oh yes, sure. So for us, man, the thing that I found is that this challenge unearthed a lot of things for our church. I heard testimony after testimony of the two parts that were the most challenging was the being with God and learning how to not get caught up in the do, but spend more time with God. Some people had never heard it put like that before. And so that was one. But I think the most impactful for our church, man, and if you knew our church history, I think you would understand why. The most impactful part for us was the challenge to forgive. That man, that one right there, that week was a very, very impactful week for me personally, because I could not stand before the church knowing that I was harboring unforgiveness for some childhood issues. And so I just came clean to the whole church, man, and they just all just came. They're still asking me, and so that was probably the one thing that was unearthed, was that our church, a lot of people there were harboring unforgiveness.
Alim, yeah, that's awesome, dude. What I can tell in you just from one sermon and then getting to just talk with you for a little while today is I just love your heart, and I can just see your genuine, spirit of authenticity. That's really great, man. So I want to encourage you with that. So I appreciate that. We got a question from Don that came in that says they don't currently have a pastor. Is this challenge able to be done without a pastor leading it? And I would say absolutely, Don. Like, we try to make things as turnkey as possible. And even some churches have used our resources, like when a pastor would go on a sabbatical, because it already has a lot of the things needed for the other parts of the ministry to do what they need to do. And we provide sermon manuscripts. And so, whoever's preaching can utilize those, or even use the videos if they need to for those times. So yeah, whatever church you're at, Don, we'd love to link up with you. So if you guys have any more questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. We've only got a few more minutes here. What I want to do is I want to talk to you about, we've got another season coming up that I think is a really advantageous season, and we call it the post-Easter season. Most churches have about an 8-week window where school is still in session and families are still around. And so we really want to propel your church. And there's enough time. There's not a ton of time, but there's enough time if you haven't already and you're listening or watching in this next week. It's March 17th today. There's enough time to truly implement this well at your church. 4 quick reasons why post-Easter works. Number one, we really pride ourselves on being turnkey. And what we mean by that is there's a lot of stuff that we as pastors have to do. And it's really nice to go all in on our Easter message and all in on our Easter theme and go crazy for Easter, and then back that up with something really great for 40 days. There's been seasons in my ministry where I feel like we've went all in on Easter and had a great Sunday. And the Monday I woke up the next day, it was one of the most depressing days, because I'm like, oh, I got to figure out what we're doing in 6 days. And so we'd love to provide a really great 40-day, boom, let's talk about the resurrection and what this amazing story and how we can believe and receive Jesus on Resurrection Sunday. But then let's talk about for 40 days, cool, so you came on Easter and you heard what it's like to believe in that incredible story. Now let's talk about actually following Jesus. And that's what our materials do. They're discipleship materials. So turnkey. The other reason I would say is it's super evangelistic. We saw that especially in Pastor Seth's church. Use this resource to get out there, use the hashtags, be creative. Here's what you have going for you, though, in this season is you actually get to use Easter to promote it. And I think that's awesome. You'll get more people that show up to your Easter service than probably any other service in the year, maybe outside of Christmas. And so if you're able to be generous and provide a real clear next step of, hey, for the next 40 days, will you lean in with us? Here's a free book for all the guests. I think that's a really awesome strategy. Number 3, I would say, again, we want to maximize the church calendar. And there's about an 8-week season where this fits really nicely into there so that you can go into summer with momentum and growth. And then number 4, I kind of already mentioned it, but it's really great to follow the Easter Resurrection Sunday with practical materials of what it really means to believe, but then follow Jesus. I really think that's the thing that's missing in our Western Christianity is we have a lot of people that say, I believe in Jesus, but few that are really following him. And at the end of the day, that's what we want at all of our churches, not just belief in, but to truly follow and submit to Jesus as Lord. And so we would love to work with your church. I'm going to throw one more offer on the side, and then I'll double check and see if we've got any more questions that have come in. If you've got a question, go ahead and throw it in the chat. So I went ahead and made another offer live. We're going to do free shipping on any of our church packs. And that's available, I think, for through the 24th or 26th. I can't remember, 7 or 9 days. And so if any of you are like, yeah, I want to jump in post-Easter, it sounds good, we would love to work with you. We've got 3 40-day challenge series. 2 of the guys here just did Red Letter Challenge, Alim and Seth's church. That's our opening. That's our introduction. If you haven't done one yet, we encourage you to do that one. Nate just did Being Challenge, which is going to be all about growing in the 5 keystone habits of Jesus. And then our latest one that we came out with is Forgiving Challenge, a 40-day journey to truly lead to freedom. And we've seen God do really great things. We've got 102 churches that I know of right now that are in a 40-day challenge. And we would love for your church to be in one after the Easter season. The only caveat is we may have enough books for Forgiving Challenge for 1, 2, or 3 churches to jump in. We are out of stock, and paper shortage is a real thing. I've had an order in for months, and it isn't showing up yet. So if you're here and you're like, I want to do Forgiving Challenge, like, you need to let us know, because we are not broadcasting that on our website. It says back order because we're filling the current churches going through because they're like Seth's church where they don't order enough, and we wanted them to have some. And so anyway, we'd love for you to link up with any one of those 3 Alim mentioned it earlier, and I think Seth did as well. The more churches that, and Nate too, the more churches that I talk to, they see the beauty in what Nate calls these alignment series. And so once, I really see a lot of growing leading churches once, maybe twice a year, doing something like this, where for 40 days or a period of weeks, we're all in, like our kids, our youth are doing it together. And so post-Easter is a really good time frame for that if you haven't gotten what you need to get after Easter. So Diana says, how would you encourage the leaders of the church to get involved with this? Just buying the books for the leaders, have them look through the videos. Absolutely. I think that's a really good thing for them to be familiar with it. One of our best practices is to hopefully, depending on the size of your team, I know Nate's church did this, is get a smaller number of books for your staff or your leadership team and have them actually look at the material and if they're able to go through it. That way you can kind of understand the rhythm and flow of what your whole church is going to be walking through. And when you actually walk through it, they're going to be that much more bought into it. And so that's definitely a great next practice. As I look at the poll question, yeah, most people are lower. Only one is higher. It's been a hard season for in-person worship attendance. And certainly we don't want to neglect online. God's doing great things there. And so great, awesome. But I also still believe in the value of in-person attendance. And I really believe these 40-day challenges can help with that. And so we'd love for you to be a part of it. All right. Tim says belief in versus following Jesus, a huge problem. Thanks for providing. Okay. He's just thanking me. So you're welcome. You're welcome, Tim. But I want to thank these guys for being a part of today's webinar. It's really awesome to hear your stories and to see what God is doing and to help be a small part of that. Like, I'm so grateful that I'm honored that you guys would consider Red Letter Living in one of our 40-day challenges. And so many blessings as you continue to lead. And I'd like to close with a prayer for your churches and then for anyone listening as well. So God, we thank you for the greatest opportunity in the world to follow after you. God, we do not deserve it, and yet you give it to us anyway. And so, Jesus, I thank you for that opportunity. I thank you specifically that for the four of us and many others that are in this webinar who are pastors and who are leading churches and on the front lines, that gets to be what we do with our career. Man, we are blessed, God, and we thank you for that and pray that through what we do, we can lead people more closely to you. I pray for Pastor Alim and Connect Church, God, that you would continue to bring unity to that church, that you would give Alim everything that he needs to lead Connect well into the next season. Thank you for his heart being open to where you're moving, especially when there were a lot of moving parts. Thank you that he leaned in to fast and pray. And thank you that the people are responding. May he continue to be authentic and genuine and honest and see, God, you do great things. Thanks for Pastor Seth. We pray, Jesus, that this boost in worship attendance, which we're really grateful for, that it would not just be a 40-day boost, but God, this could carry on after as well. And so may they enjoy the momentum and the excitement, but God, bring long-term fruit that comes from this as well. And with all the new people that are coming, God, use them in mighty ways. For Pastor Nate and his church, what an awesome church and facility and space that he has, and the years of being in a school and now having their own campus in a growing place. God, you have positioned them, I really believe, for such a time as this. And so continue to do your great work at Summit Church in Buckeye. And for all the pastors and church leaders that are listening, God, thank you for calling them, for placing them where they need to be. And may they continue to lead with guidance from you and wisdom from your Holy Spirit. It's in your name we pray. And together we say, amen.
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 All right, crew. Well, thank you for doing this with me. And it's been a joy to lock arms for this last hour and over the last 40 some days with each of you guys. So blessings. Take care. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Zach.